Welcome again to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point. I'm AJ Ross, joined by the one and only Max Starks. You know, there's been a large presence this evening from Steelers Nation. They put on a show for sure.
Yes, they did.
In this last preseason game. What impressed you the most?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that impressed me was right out the gates, right? 3 fast starts for the offense and 3 games. Like, to be able to go out there, run plays. Kenny Pickett was 3 for 3 in the air in that situation, and just looked like a really high-functioning offense, something that we did not see for a large part of last season. They went 14 games without having an opening drive touchdown. We went 3 for 3 in this preseason, so it's a lot to feel good about, and that's one of the things. I don't care who was back there. 2s, 3s, didn't matter. There was an opponent in front of them, and they attacked that opponent, and good results have happened. So I love the confidence that was built by the offense.
And will hopefully set the tone for the regular season. You know, I want to bring in the guys who called the game, Bob Pompeani and Charlie Batch. Guys, what impressed you guys the most this evening?
Well, same thing. That's that first-team offense, AJ. The fact that they were perfect in the preseason. I don't remember ever seeing a team go through the entire preseason, first team, 5 touchdowns, 5 drives. Normally, you're throwing a field goal in there or something. Kenny Pickett tonight, again, perfect, 4 for 486. We saw a 31-yard run by McFarland. We saw 33 to Johnson. We saw 35 to Pickens. What's not to like?
I think I absolutely agree with you. And I think one thing that stands out to me is that offensive line up front. They kept Kenny Pickett clean throughout the entire preseason. He's able to stand in there, deliver the football, and do what he was going really since OTAs started. And that's what I enjoy. And he's really transitioned that out here to the preseason games.
Well, you're the quarterback of the program, so let's talk about the quarterbacks here. You got a guy like Kenny Pickett, even Mitch Trubisky. All these guys did what they had to do in this preseason.
They did. And both, you knew Mitch was coming in. He was the backup. Really has a great rapport with Kenny Pickett there, and you can see both of those guys communicating well. Here you go, Kenny Pickett right here, just throwing a nice little go route to Deontay Johnson to the left side here. Now he's coming right back in that drive to George Pickens down the right sideline that led to a touchdown. And then this is what I like, setting up the screen game, hitting yardage. That's 70, 80 yards. If you can get this game, that screen game going, it packs the quarterback stats. And then, of course, Mitch Trubisky comes in, says, no way, I'm not going for the short one. I'm throwing the deep crossing route to Connor Hayward right there. And again, Mitch is coming right back again, setting up another screen to Connor Hayward right there. I love what both of these quarterbacks have brought to the equation, and they are playing with tons of confidence right now.
Hey, Charlie, I want to ask you, when we're looking at Mason Rudolph, the aggressive nature has been there all 3 preseason games. What have you seen from Mason? I know we've seen our top 2, but I think when you look at a Tanner Morgan and a Mason Rudolph, has Mason, kind of come out of his shell a little bit more in this preseason versus years past?
Yeah, it's a different role because last year he was competing for a starting job and a backup job, but coming into this particular camp, he knew he was a 3, and you don't know who you're running the offense with. So his job is to go into the huddle, make sure he's communicating, get in and out of huddle without any mistakes, no penalties, pre-snap penalties. He's able to get everybody lined up, and the confidence is there. And when you have a veteran quarterback in that particular manner, if you ever have to get to a 3, he's capable of getting the job done.
And we also saw a lot of good blocking, not just from the offensive line on offense, but we're talking about tight ends. You've seen it from the wide receivers. It's sort of infectious, isn't it? When guys who are not offensive linemen do it, it seems to really go through the entire team.
And this starts with Omar Khan building depth at each position and creating those competitive rooms. And that's something that you've seen the entire time. So there really is no taking off throughout the course of practice because these guys have to bring it every single day because they're getting evaluated from that perspective. I love the competition and the depth of this roster.
Well, you know what, Charlie, as you talk about the depth of this roster, I got to bring Max back in to talk about the depth of this O-line, and especially what we saw with some of the runs tonight, those holes they were able to, open tonight.
Yeah, no, it was a great job. I mean, we didn't see James Daniels in the lineup. I think he got a vet night off, but Kendrick Green steps up, and I thought Kendrick really put himself in a good position. But Mason Cole, Isaac Siamalu, Dan Moore at left tackle, and then, of course, Chuks Okorafor at right tackle. You can see this group just growing, and the chemistry's building, and it allows for the running backs to feel comfortable that they can trust their eyes, because in years past, like, Najee hasn't been able to trust as much because it's like as soon as it looks open, it gets closed off. But tonight, they were absolutely doing a great job opening some monster holes. I mean, the first rush for Najee right up the middle, part of like the Red Sea between Siamalu and Mason Cole. They opened it up, and then you see guys sticking to blocks, getting to the second level, allowing Najee to be untouched by the time he got in the end zone. essentially until he went across. It was great to see Najee carry the ball, and then Elandon Roberts. I mean, he has the breakaway speed. He doesn't necessarily need the blocking up front. As long as you seal the edges for him, he's going to make something happen. And I just thought it was really nice to see the offense have success, because last week we didn't get as much. I mean, we got 7 plays on the goal line on the 1-yard line to get into the end zone. Tonight, there was no issue. We had 3 rushing touchdowns, no passing touchdowns in this contest. It was just indicative of the offensive line, the trust that the coaches have in them to go out there and execute.
Definitely showed some versatility, like you said, the last few preseason games in the air, this one on the ground. Bob and Charlie, I want you to expand upon more of this run game that we're starting to see come together and click with the depth of this running back room.
Well, I think, AJ, was really the start of last year, the second half of the year, when they started to commit to the run. And I think it helped Kenny Pickett, you know, who was just trying not to make mistakes out there. He wasn't slinging it all over until late in the game. And when he had to, though, that's when we saw him really at his best, you know, when he had to get those fourth-quarter comebacks. But if you can show a defense a really good run game, and then you have these weapons, I think it's going to be tough on every defensive coordinator the Steelers see.
And you talk about what identity do you have offensively. Physicality up front, it starts with those guys, the moves that were made in the offseason, controlling that line of scrimmage, opening up the holes. So that lets you know, yeah, we've seen a lot of passing, but no, they are capable of running the football. And if that's the case, an element that we really haven't seen this preseason, because you haven't game planned, is going to be that play action game. And if that's the case, guess whose name is going to be popping up a lot on Sundays or on game days? That'd be Pat Freiermuth in the middle of the field. So this is an offense that you can get excited about.
You also get excited about special teams. I think they have really stepped up their game, too. Not just, you know what you got with Boswell, you know what you got with Presley Harvin and company. I'm talking about the coverage. They have guys very committed to doing things on special teams. If you look at the field position, all 3 games that we have seen, the opposing team has been pinned back in their own territory, which is a real helpful thing for the defense.
You're pinning them back defensively. They're getting off the field, forcing a punt, and then you're adding the element of the return game. Calvin Austin, what he brings to the table. You see all the expressions that Mike Tomlin was showing throughout the course. He knows he has a returner, so he's excited. But you mentioned the coverage. These guys are going out here, and you have to credit special teams coach Danny Smith, because it's hard to coach special teams in today's NFL game, but he makes it a point to make it a point of emphasis to say, hey, I don't care what you do offensively or defensively, you got to be able to make the team on the special teams.
Excellent point, Charlie. And I want to turn it to Max, because that was something we talked about in the pregame show, as far as guys looking to make this roster through special teams efforts tonight. Was there anyone that you think maybe solidified a spot?
Well, I think when you look at it, you know, what's the willingness and want to? I think a guy like a Chandon Sullivan puts his name in the hat. Trenton Thompson is another guy that you have to say, okay, we need to watch these guys, because, you know, even though you're a slot nickel or a safety type of backup, what do you do in the core 4 game? And both those guys had really good coverage nights tonight. I think another guy, Nick Herbig, even though we know he's going to be an elite pass rusher one day and he's in a great rotation, what can you do in special teams on game day to earn the hat? And I thought Nick Herbig also had some plays where he kind of blew past and jumped, but he was one of the first guys down there on a kickoff coverage. And so those are some of the guys that I look at as, okay, when we're solidifying the back half, that 47 through 53 range, those are guys you're going to look at and say, okay, these guys have additional flexibility for actual game day hats.
Well, thank you, Max, and thank you, Bob and Charlie. I know you got a plane to catch, so we're going to let you go, and we'll continue much more here on the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point coming up next. Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point. We have been asking you what was the biggest takeaway from the preseason, and you've been responding on social media. Thanks to Pepsi, Steelers watching is always better with Pepsi. Here's some of your responses. Nick Herbig is not human. Steel City Reese. For sure, we keep hearing Nick Herbig every single week.
Well, he's gotten a sack every single week, so you know, that's a good way to get your name in people's minds. And Nick Herbig has just looked like a tremendous pass rusher. When you're thinking about that second wave of your defensive line unit, to have him and Marcus Golden on both sides is pretty special.
And Presto says a lot of potential is starting to be tapped into, and evidence of playmakers everywhere for sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot to go around, a lot of good things.
And now we want to toss it over to Coach Mike Tomlin, who is at the podium post-game.
Really appreciative of the effort, not only tonight, but kind of through this whole process of development. Just can't say enough about the group, the energy that they bring daily, and hopefully it's a catalyst for us as we transition out of preseason ball to regular season ball. Appreciate the efforts tonight. We saw some of the things that we wanted to see from the units and had an opportunity to highlight some guys. Still got some growth ahead of us, obviously. Penalty on the opening kickoff, man, starting on the long field is difficult. I appreciate the offense going down and scoring. That usually doesn't happen. Things of that nature. We got caught with 12 on the field. Defense, when they paced us, that's on us as coaches. And so you can't get enough of these opportunities in stadium. You work your tail off to simulate it in a practice setting, but it is what it is. And so we'll comb through it like we always do in an effort to get better. And then we'll transition our attentions to the next component of this process, reducing our roster and getting ready for our opener. No real injury things to speak of, thankfully, particularly at this stage of the preseason. We're thankful for that. And I'll pause and open up for questions.
Mike, every team handles these preseason games differently. You talk about just wanting as many opportunities as possible. To see your starters on both sides of the ball play as well as they do, does that kind of validate why you want them to play?
You know, I don't really need validation. I just think it's difficult to box without sparring. And so, you know, preseason, the opportunity for us to spar and sharpen our sword for the battle.
Anyone else?
Like James Daniels, was that a breast thing or something?
He had a day-to-day injury, and so we did what was prudent in that regard. Same thing with Cam Hayward.
What's the biggest thing you've seen in Kenny's growth from the end of last year to now?
Who's that?
Kenny's growth.
You know, I think the growth is probably associated with being him and not necessarily the surface level things associated with the position, but the leadership things, the communication things, the bringing people together things. When you got a higher level of comfort in terms of what it is that you're doing, then those things probably happen more. And so, you know, that is significant. It's not, you know, play related, but it is. Because he is the catalyst for that unit. He controls the pace and the tenor of that unit. And I just think if he's comfortable, that unit has an opportunity to be comfortable. And I think that's probably the most significant difference.
Mike, how's he done throwing the ball where it should have been thrown?
Who? Kenny?
Yeah, making his reads, seeing what he needs to see.
It has been really solid.
The two also Deontay and George on the sideline, how encouraging is to see him connecting with them?
You know, we've done it in practice, and so I expect to see it in stadiums.
Was your playing time plan set in stone regardless of what decision the Falcons made?
I don't care what the Joneses do. We're going to do what we do.
You had some mixed up positions on the offensive line, probably some of the injuries, but probably also just getting the guys in a different spot. What did you see out of the way they played together and different circumstances they've been in?
You know, largely I thought we got hats on hats. It wasn't a bunch of unblocked guys. And when you're moving people around and mixing and matching groups, that's always a concern. And so I just think that that's encouraging. But I'll comb through it with the tape before I give you further analysis.
Did you feel good about Robert Jones preseason?
I did. I felt really good about the number of reps we were able to get him, and that was our intention. He's a talented young guy, but he's a third-year guy, and those guys need as many reps as they can get, and thankfully we were able to get him a lot.
You gotta love those Tomlinisms. It's
Thanks,
difficult
yes.
to box without sparring. The Steelers definitely delivered some jabs, some knockouts tonight. Here's the JP Roofing final stats. Rushing yards, 175. Passing yards, 136. That's that balanced attack we talked about, Max.
Yeah.
First downs, 21.
Yeah, good numbers. Time of possession, which is one is always key and more of an offensive line stat that we like to take into account. Having the ball for over 33 minutes, having some nice long drives, killing that clock, especially in the second half. I thought it was a really good result. And 5 sacks to 2. You got to love all of these numbers, but I think one of my favorite ones is the fact that this offensive balance. I know it was run emphasis, but anytime you can get still over 300 yards of offense in this type of environment, that shows that there's a lot of depth to this team.
And like you said, that time of a possession, it also equates to defense. It gives your defensive guys some rests, gives them some opportunities to rotate in and make those turnovers or create those turnovers. So that's good looks there. And much more coming up on the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point when we return. The Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point is brought to you in part by Gone by Dick's Sporting Goods. A lot of positive takeaways from this final preseason game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You've mentioned, Max, just the balance we've seen offensively, and this is what QB1 Kenny Pickett had to say after the game.
Yeah, just, solidifying the preseason and finishing strong, going out there and putting points on the board is really, our goal. Went 2 for 2 with touchdowns, so that's always a good sign.
Then you went 5 for 5 through 3 games with the touchdowns. Do you take anything from that?
Yeah, I think it's proof that, all the work that we put in, paid off, and we had a good preseason. But obviously now it counts, so now we got to get, our attention to San Fran and focus on those guys and start getting into some game prep stuff.
The 2 deep balls early to the left of Jordan Burns. What it means for you to connect with them well in these games?
Yeah, just seeing those guys one-on-one, I'm going to always give them a chance. So they're both great players, really talented guys, so I want to make sure that I do my part and put the ball out there for them, and then they do the rest.
Tim, you mentioned last week, how did you do versus how you wanted to do throughout this process of, putting the ball where it was supposed to go based on what you were seeing?
Yeah, I think it went well. I feel like we moved the ball well. We had explosive plays in the pass game and in the run game. The balance is there. That's what we're looking for. Our receivers did a really good job of, getting the yards after the catch, another point of emphasis that we had coming into this preseason. So I think we improved on a lot of things. Obviously, a long season ahead, some great teams coming up, but I think we're, a step in the right direction after having this preseason.
Was it important to you to get Najee Harris going a little bit?
Yeah, Najee's, he's going to be ready to go for the season. He's going to be fresh. I think we did a good job of getting some touches today in the run game and through the air. He did a great job on that screen and got a nice chunk play for us. So he does a lot of great things. So I'm excited to be back there with 22 again this year.
Anyone else?
And we're excited, too, to see what else Kenny Pickett and company have in store. There's now a little over 2 weeks to go until the start of the regular season. What type of, chemistry can be built? What else in the playbook can it be expanded upon in that time so we can see some fireworks week 1?
Well, I think the biggest thing is going to be, AJ, is actually expanding this, right? We saw a very vanilla offense from this Steelers squad versus what I saw at training camp. And so just seeing that actually unleashed, the fact that they can do, as Mike Tomlin would like to say, the routine things routinely, it looked good. 5 drives, 5 touchdowns scored by this first team unit, and then you think about it, we've done it on the ground and in the air. So to show that balance already, because everybody's going to be trying to glean something from those 5 drives to extrapolate for the regular season, now you keep teams guessing because there is a balance. This team can run the football. This team can pass. And Charlie talked about it earlier. Play action is going to be key. And the fact that the biggest thing I was surprised by that had success, the screen game. The screen game has not been a part of this offense over the last 2 years. Seeing it work and be executed at a high level tonight gives me hope that now you have a really well-balanced and well-oiled offensive group that can now get those type of nuanced things. We got guys who can get out in coverage and actually block it up for the running backs or the wide receivers to get into the screen game. And then, another guy, Connor Hayward. Connor Hayward tonight rushed the football, received the football, blocked.
Right.
He just did it all. And so that just shows kind of where this offense is. It's a very transformative, and it can evolve, and it can adapt to whatever opponents can throw at you. And now that makes it tougher on opposing defensive coordinators.
Absolutely. And how much more confident these guys seem to be within this system. Yeah. Time now to check in with our Yins Chat prediction that we had in front of this game was the Steelers' total yards. Max, I don't know why I bet against you because you're 3 for 3.
Just bet with Max. Just bet with Max, not against Max.
That's what I will learn from this point forward. We're going to have much more coming up on the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point when we return. Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point, where Steelers Nation was deep here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and you guys have been responding on social media with your biggest takeaway from the preseason. These are presented by Pepsi. Steelers watching is always better with Pepsi. Gary says the team's chemistry is looking great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Prick, the only thing cleaner than Charlie Batch's fade is Kenny Pickett's pocket.
I would even say Charlie Batch's fade is definitely a lot cleaner on the edges.
He got him lined up.
But that's pretty good. Shout out to Charlie's barber.
And Casual Cody says the depth at both inside and outside linebacker is the best it's been in the better part of a decade. Do you agree?
True statement. True statement.
Facts.
It looks good. Big facts.
Max says big facts. Now time to go to our Pella game summary, where the numbers do not lie. First 4 drives, 3 rushing touchdowns and a field goal. Steelers QBs very efficient today again, and 5 sacks on D.
I mean, the only thing was missing was special teams, big run. Oh, wait a second. Calvin Austin did have another one of 20 yards again. So this was a complete team victory. All 3 phases gave you pop, gave you excitement, and gave you success. A shutout with 3 touchdown scoring drives and 4 in a row. Those first 4 drives looked amazing. Everything looked in sync. And then, of course, the defense just attacking, aggressive, and trying to get off the field and then give the team the offense the ball, which offense in kind, over 33 minutes time of possession. It's a good team win. As
you talk about attacking and the defense tonight, Elandon Roberts was a name we heard over and over again. He's at the podium as we speak.
I just think, for us, we went in there with a mindset of this how we're going to approach the game. And, games like this, man, you can't waste. So we went in there working on our communication, working on what we needed to work on as a defense. And, when we were satisfied with it, we was able to start pulling starters.
Landon, are you surprised it's kind of a 3-man rotation at inside linebacker? And how do you think you guys are playing off each other and with each other even when it's different pair?
I just feel like the whole room is playing good off each other, and we just have to keep that going, yeah, I think the whole room is playing good off each other. Us 3, the units that was in there later in the game, they played well off each other and stuff like that.
Elandon Roberts making his presence felt. He has the green dot. He's communicating out there throughout the D. He has 2 Super Bowls under his belt from New England.
Yeah.
What's a veteran presence like that add to this defense?
Well, I think it brings a steadying effect. I talked to Cam Hayward on the sidelines just about that linebacking group behind him. Like, how is it having this group? And he said the communication is just so key. Elandon and Mason and Cole Holcomb, they are just talking constantly when they come to the sidelines, communicating with all 3 levels, not only talking to the outside backers of the D-line, but also the secondary. And Elandon Roberts was providing a spark. Early on, he had a big play, first play of the game. Quan Alexander, another guy coming in. So when you have that veteran type of guys that are playing off of each other, as Landon alluded to, and it doesn't matter who's in, because we know that we're going to over-communicate to make sure that we can play faster and react more. You see that in the play in this game, and it will continue during the season. And it's a good problem to have. Oh, darn, we have 4 good linebackers that we can play at any moment. That's a good problem to have, and you see it resonating throughout all of the defense because everybody's playing faster and moving quicker because the communication's clean.
Absolutely. It's been electrifying to watch, and as one of the viewers said, that depth is really exciting. But as we look forward to the regular season, again, we're just a little over 2 weeks away. As we look at the schedule, starting out with the 49ers, and then the Browns, what do you anticipate with those first couple weeks?
Listen, I'm just hoping Nick Bosa continues to hold out for the Niners. Not going to lie to you. but, I look at this, the way we finish this preseason, it's going to be huge to see, because Acrisure Stadium is going to be rocking come season opener after what they've seen. And good God, if they have an opening score touchdown early in this game, the top is already blown off of the stadium because it's open air, but it'll be even more fireworks. And then, of course, with the Browns, a Monday nighter, second week of the season is going to be a fun one.